Well, I don't think Sam Darnold was going to go like the top 6 quarterbacks taken in the fantasy draft, but he's a very important piece for the Minnesota Vikings season, as we now know. We probably would have been anyways, even with McCarthy, even if he was healthy. But just what's reasonable to expect from Darnold this year in terms of like, will there be as big of a drop off people might think with Cousins not being here versus obviously he never had this kind of weapons, and I don't think in his career to work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the ultimate question of how this Viking season, like where it ends up. I think it really it hinges so much on Sam Darnold's play. And I spent a lot of time this summer on a story that has not published yet about Sam Darnold's past and kind of the road that he's traveled to get to this point. And I think when you really peel the layers back and you listen to people talk about his entry into the NFL in New York with the Jets, and then his second opportunity in Carolina with the Panthers, and the dynamics that played a role in his up and down and a lot really down kind of entry into the NFL. You listen, and it's almost like, we talk about these quarterbacks like they do it all themselves. Like it's either they're great, their team's great, or they're bad and the team's bad. And while the position has such a grand importance in the sport, no question about it, I think it's almost we never put enough into like, well, if Sam Darnold plays well, it's probably in large part because the system is tailored to him correctly, the play calling is good, that he feels a belief from the coaching staff in the locker room, the skill players are healthy. Like all of that stuff to me matters probably close to as much, if not more, than just the innate talent of a guy. And so I think it's part of why this is such a fascinating experiment. You're taking a guy who has been in those poor situations and you're giving him his best surroundings. Does that lead to more success? And ultimately, what does that look like? It's the number one most interesting question of this team. It's why I think even people nationally are like semi-interested in the Vikings to see how this plays out. And I don't think there's an obvious answer. Like I will say, watching him practice every day, there's no question the arm talent and the athleticism is like unteachable stuff. And that's why you get drafted 3rd overall like he was in 2018. But the more you're around football, as you guys know, and probably hockey and every sport, it's like, well, what is the mental aptitude? What is the processing ability on the field, in the game, when you've got to make split decisions with stuff flying in front of you? Like the more I cover sports, the more I think like that what mental skill set ability is just so paramount to guys who have success. And so I think if Sam Darnold, if the Vikings can put him in a situation where he can maximize that part of himself and not turn the football over, then they could probably exceed expectations. But I really think it's going to take all of that and all of those pieces kind of working in tandem.
What's your sense on just like the organization's feel for Sam Darnold, right? Like, is this a guy that like a lot of fans outside looking in might think, oh, they brought him in because that's an easy guy for JJ to supplant later in the season? Are they going to ride the entire season with him, or do you think that they're looking to see who else might be available out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan would be for him to start, and you're going to give him a runway, and there's not really going to be a short leash. And I mean, but that's plans, and you guys have heard the Tyson quote 7,000 million times, and the plan is only as good until you get punched in the mouth. And I mean, punch in the mouth in this circumstance, to me, is turning the football over. If he's fumbling, if he's throwing interceptions at a high clip, the way he has at times in the past, then it gets really tough. But the problem is, I mean, they don't really have a real reliable option behind it. Nick Mullins he's pretty much a career backup who has had success in spurts. Jaron Hall's a young guy who performed well in the preseason and showed some development, but I don't think you can have a crazy amount of optimism in what he could provide. From what I know, they've been a little bit in the backup quarterback market, and there's some interest there. But I think it has to really fit for them for them to really make a move like that to kind of fortify that room overall. So, I mean, I really think this is Sam Darnold's show. And again, it's why I go back to, head coach Kevin O'Connell, who is the play caller, quarterbacks coach Josh McCown, the skill players, the offensive line, the system in general, like all of that, the running game, probably maybe even more than all the other stuff. Like all of that stuff has to be good so that when it goes bad, when there are the lows and it's kind of offsetting the highs, can they lean on that stuff to stabilize it and to keep Sam Darnold on a path where he is confident and where he does feel the belief? Like I sat down with Josh McCown last week, and Josh is the Vikings quarterbacks coach. He was a teammate of Sam's his rookie year in New York. And Josh is like, I believe in this guy. Like I watch him work every day. I see it. And it's great that for Sam to hear that, but it's also only as good as when you're standing in New York and that Giants crowd is bearing down on you. Can you make plays with everything flashing in front of you? That's it's something that you can believe as much as you want internally, but we'll see what happens.